We're joined now by Steve Arthur of Travel Lovers. Businesses, wow, I mean, COVID has really done a number on you guys, hasn't it?
Well, it has. But digressing just a moment, back to the Kentucky Derby, I was fortunate enough to be in the stands at the 100th running and saw Secretariat win the first leg.
Did you really?
And who am I to criticize Kenny Rice, but I think Secretariat won the Belmont by 27 lengths.
Well, I think what he was saying there was they superimposed
and he would still have won by 7.
Well, yeah, they put him up against right. I think that's what he was saying, right?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah. But
so you saw the domination.
I was lucky enough to be there, and it was my 3rd Kentucky Derby. The first 2 were in the infield, which was an experience in itself. and the 100th running, I actually had grandstand seats, which were not easy to come by. I learned a travel lesson there. But lucky enough to see probably the greatest horse of all time win the first leg.
8468255, your greatest sports, not memory, but, what's the greatest sporting event you've ever attended? Because, and we'll dive into this a little bit more, but you guys have done a ton of trips to a lot of different sporting events. What's the one? Is that the one that stands out the most for you?
It does for me personally.
Does it?
I've been a fan of horse racing forever, and usually have a party at home and do the whole mint julep thing. And I don't wear the funny clothes, but nor does my wife, so we'll spare that.
Jamie's all about it, though.
But other than that, we've done a ton of sports, and everything from football to basketball to baseball games. We held 40 or 50 seats for every home game for the Orioles for a while, and we did lots of motor coach trips there. Usually went off pretty easily, but again, with football is a little different. The one that sticks in my mind was FedEx Field, and we had, I think, 38 people on a coach that day, and we insisted that everybody know the rules, that 45 minutes after the end of the game, the motor coach is going to leave, and you have to be there. And we waited, and I guess 5 or 10 minutes went by, and people on the coach were getting, and I wasn't on this trip, but my escort was. People on the coach were getting a little anxious, and they waited another 15 minutes and finally had to go. And about 20 minutes later, her cell phone goes off, and these 2 gentlemen who had apparently enjoyed themselves quite a bit at the game, wanted to know where the coach was. And she said, well, we're just pulling into the restaurant at Dumfries, which was where we would stop for dinner after the game, after Sunday afternoon games, or Saturday afternoon games, whichever it was. And I don't know what that 50-mile cab ride cost these 2 guys to catch up with the bus while everybody else was having dinner. But always pay attention to the rules, follow the instructions, and make sure you time yourself appropriately. But
boy, that's tough when you're late and you miss the bus. Not a good scene.
Yeah, well, travel related. I mean, that's the deal with cruises. I mean,
right.
Virtually every major cruise leaves somebody somewhere, because when the time comes to leave the dock, they leave the dock, and if you're still in town or you're still sightseeing or shopping, you have to find your way to the next port, if it's even possible.
No cabs getting you out to that ship.
No cabs are going to take you to the ship. No.
Folks have not wanted to travel this year, understandably, but you got to think that people are going to be ready next year, for sure.
People are topping any expectation we had a couple of weeks ago. Booking ahead of time now. Mm-hmm. If you're interested in an Alaska cruise, you had better book it within the next 2 weeks, because they didn't have a season this year. Just about everyone that we had that was booked have pushed their booking out to the season next year, which is extremely short, basically 3 months. And so they're taking up most of the space, and people who were planning on going anyway before COVID, they're having to scuffle now to find an appropriate berth, and sometimes people can't get cabins that they want. So we've seen huge pent-up demand, and people are are way ahead of the curve now, booking stuff even out into the middle of next summer.
I think that's something that most folks wouldn't think about, because right now, in the midst of, the cliche, the global pandemic.
Yeah.
Should we travel? Should we not? I don't want to look too far ahead, but the reality is what you just said. Everybody who didn't travel in 2020 is pushing it back, which is going to make it a lot more difficult to book for 2021, when I think we all think things will open up much more. So for folks, now more than ever, you need to plan ahead, and you guys are working on all those trips for 2021 now.
You need to plan ahead, and you need to be more aware now than ever before about the restrictions and the limitations. Europe is still not open, and we did a tremendous amount of European travel, especially river cruises. Mexico is open in certain places. Most of the Caribbean islands are open, but virtually all of them have a slightly different variation on the rules and regulations. You have to have a you have to have a COVID test within X number of days, and the next island might require that you do a simple test when you arrive. Some you have to bring a certificate from a doctor saying you've been tested and are clean, and that has to occur within a pretty short window from the time that you actually travel. And not being disparaging here, but if you go to the airport and buy an airline ticket to go to anywhere in the Caribbean or Europe, they'll sell it to you, because their only concern is getting you from point A to point B, and they don't care. And if it's so complicated, I really don't fault them, but there are people that end up at an airport in a foreign place and can't go any further, and have to turn around and come back on the next available flight.
I was going to ask where the best place for people to go to stay up to speed on all this stuff that's changing, on a moment's notice. But the reality is they should just call you guys.
That's the reality. You should always.
That's your job these days.
You should always seek professional assistance. And I don't do my own taxes. I wouldn't think about trying that. So I let somebody else do it. And we hope people will appreciate the services that we provide and allow us to do all the heavy lifting so they can go and enjoy themselves.
Do you have a lot of new trips, offerings that you have planned for 2021 that maybe will excite people a little bit more?
That's slow in coming, because we're having such a hard time getting definitive answers from people in lots of destinations,
right,
domestic and foreign. So the tried and true things, the Caribbean cruises are going to come back. Cruises are still shut down now for most cruise lines, until at least December, probably January, February. Royal Caribbean thinks they may start a few cruises out of U.S. markets in November, but that's iffy. But the tried and true destinations in the Caribbean, or the Mexican side of the Caribbean, Playa del Carmen and Cancun, Cozumel, those places are still extremely popular. Dominican Republic is probably our most popular destination, and their restrictions are probably the easiest to deal with right now. Going forward, you can go there now if you want to. So we're just helping people with pretty much the tried and true things that they've done in the past or wanted in the past.
Steve Arthur of Travel Lovers joining us here on the Sportsline, travellovers.com, to check out more information on the trips that are available. And we were talking a little bit about you touched on the Derby, and that may be the Seeing Secretariat being your favorite trip, and live sporting events are something that you guys do quite a bit. We were kind of touching on it earlier, and Jamie touched on his. Dennis, favorite memory from a live sporting event you were at?
Probably Virginia Tech's national championship football game in New Orleans back in early 2000, after their 1999 season where they made it to the Sugar Bowl and played Florida State for the national championship. Mm-hmm. That's probably my biggest sports event.
And I was at that game too.
Really? Yeah.
I don't. I don't think.
Dude, you got a sweet gig.
I don't think my seats were as good as yours, but to see Tech play there was just astonishing.
Yeah. that was a special week. We got to go down and do stories leading up to the big game, and it was that was real special. And of course, last year, not this past year, but the year before, when Virginia won the basketball national championship, I got to go down for the Elite Eight game when they beat Purdue in that crazy game that it looked like Virginia had lost, and they were able to tie it up and go to overtimes, and it was crazy.
We won't bring up why your favorite memory wasn't the national championship game.
No, we don't need to go there. But
we've got a text from Todd in Lynchburg, and you could weigh in as well. We got a couple minutes with Steve left, and if you want to weigh in, 846-8255, call or text. Jamie, do you have that text, or is this it?
That's it. Yep, that's it.
Oh, okay. He says WrestleMania in Dallas. Thanks for the details. It's quite a story. That's quite a story.
Steve, are you guys doing a lot of NFL trips this year? Of course, the NFL is playing.
Well, fans. I mean, there just aren't many fans.
Oh, that's true.
anymore.
Yeah, they limited fans or no fans.
Limited, if any.
Yeah,
and it depends on the venue, and I think even where in the season they are, whenever the season is going to start and end.
Right.
So, no. Right now, doing motor coaches is pretty much dead in the water. Will be until the first of the year, I believe. So we don't have much planned there. We normally do a number of the Oriole games and some national games, but we're waiting.
No fans.
It's a little far off of that now.
Yeah.
And we're waiting to see, for next season, and we're waiting to see how that's going to hash out. So,
Steve, we've only got a minute or two left. What's the craziest trip that someone wanted to book that you sat there and said, "There's no way," and sure enough, it wound up going?
Well, it's a lot easier to do the not goings.
Oh, really?
It's astonishing to me, the people that and I shouldn't say this, but I know a fair amount about travel, and I know very little about the radio business. So I expect when people call us that they have a pretty good working knowledge of what they're going to do. And national championship games, people call and want hotel accommodations and oh, by the way, can you get tickets? Sure, we get tickets for it. And then when they see the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 price tag on some of these tickets, they're like, well, those tickets are $100 or $50.
Right.
Well, they might be what's printed on the ticket. That might be the seat value for normal life. But
you try getting them for that.
But if you're trying to go, and think you can do it for everyday price, that's probably not going to happen.
In the last 20 seconds, tell
correct.
people why they should reach out to you right now.
Always seek professional assistance. We tell brides. Hopefully, you're only going to have one honeymoon, but if you don't, why would you do the heavy lifting for that when we plan honeymoons every day for lots and lots of people?
Steve Arthur, TravelLovers.com.